everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of Discovering Steven Universe. Today the episode I'm going to be talking about is Frybo, and what an interesting episode it was. Just so you know, I haven't actually written down any notes for this, so this is very much going to be off the cuff. I literally just watched the episode, and if the camera's vibrating at all, it's because my cat Midna is rubbing her face on the tripod. But let's get into some of my favorite parts of this episode. Starting with just the fact that as far as animation goes, I can't remember exactly what I said about the previous episode, but on this episode overall, this was probably the most consistent the animation has been since I started watching, except for maybe the pilot, which was pretty consistent throughout, although it was a different style. But yeah, the animation was just really consistent throughout, and I really liked the way they did it. Especially the way they portrayed a certain theme, which I'll touch on here in a little bit in my favorites. But yeah, so the animation on this one, top-notch in my opinion. It's obvious that they're still sort of developing how everything looks, but just overall it was really solid, and I feel like they finally have they've gotten on the right track with this particular episode. But okay, moving on from there, my second favorite part about this episode was Peedee and just how strangely deep the episode got. Again, in like a 12-ish minute episode, Peedee has this conversation with Steven while they're on the little arcade things. Like, you know, Peedee's riding the seahorse and Steven's on this jellyfish vibrating thing. But just the way that Peedee was talking about life and having a job and all that, like, keeping in mind that this is a kid's show, like, this is the first time that I've watched, or that I've seen in this show so far, them just kind of out of nowhere tackling an idea that is, I mean, and I don't mean this in a demeaning way for kids, but way beyond the thought process of a lot of kids at what I assume is the age of the, you know, kids they're portraying here in their intended audience. But I don't know, just the fact that they had that in there for as brief a period of time as it was, I found to be really interesting. Which Steven sort of bounced off that with, not exactly immaturity, but basically just kind of offering Peedee, you know, an alternative instead of the seahorse, which obviously wasn't meaning as much to him as it once did. You know, he was offering, hey, you want to try the jellyfish? And Steven definitely, you know, acting more of the childlike mindset there, whereas Peedee, for some reason, who, again, I assume is around the same age as Steven, just, you know, he's talking about a subject way beyond the years of, again, most kids that are the intended audience for this show. But yeah, I really, really love that aspect. Now, other than that, okay, I have two more. My third favorite, and I'll just say this very briefly, is the way that the comedy was done. In my opinion, the physical comedy in this episode was done really well. Very cringeworthy right at the end when Steven puts one of the gem shards in his underwear and it goes to attack Frybo. I mean, I know it's an animated kid, but at the same time, it's just like this picture of this young kid being completely naked because his clothes are all attacking this monster. It was just a weird scene, but it was hilarious at the same time. Again, I just really like the way the comedy was done in this episode, which brings me to my final favorite part, which is the way they handled Frybo and the horror elements that went along with that. Oh my god. Okay. Now, at first, it was kind of weird, you know, especially we see it was funny because the gem takes over, or the shard takes over Frybo's, the costume body, and then it grows like French fry legs. It's like, oh, that's funny, I see this going kind of downhill at some point. But then the next time that we actually see what's going on, when Frybo has suddenly got like the top fries are tentacles all of a sudden, and the music going along with that scene, it was just amazingly done horror elements for a kids show. And I think I might have commented on that a while back as far as Doctor Who goes, because it's a family show, slash kind of considered by some to be a kid show, but just the way they handled those horror elements was just so well done for as brief of a period as it is. And then we go on to when Pearl attacks it, and like all the ketchup and mustard or whatever it was comes flying out of its eye. Like, oh, that's obviously what it is, because for some reason Pearl can't see because she's covered in ketchup. But just like the faux gruesomeness of that stuff coming out, it was like it was from a slasher film, just like a bloody slasher film, just in the form of ketchup and mustard. I think it was mustard, but yeah, just all of that was just really, really well done. I enjoyed it so very much, and I have to say, I do believe I said in the last episode that one, sort of grabbed me. It was starting to make me really think that, I can really get into the show. But this episode, I just enjoyed it so much that it just pressed all the right buttons for me. It really has me thinking, okay, now what else can this show do? What other topics are they going to hit on that just seems like it's coming out of nowhere, but is fully appropriate for that episode? I can't wait, really. And actually, well, I won't talk about the next episode yet, because I got to talk about my negatives, which there are a few. Although I guess I kind of revealed my feelings for the episode overall, but that's besides the point. So I do have one primary negative about this episode, and I also believe it's one that I've commented on in previous episodes, and it's that it bothers me how, although the crystal gems are very powerful, it's like they have control of all their powers as far as we know, and Steven is still learning to, like, he doesn't even have control of his actual power yet. He was just, he used things that were available to him to save the day. But it seems like the crystal gems, in this case in particular, just Pearl, because the others weren't there, but they get sort of the short end of the stick when it comes to battling these monsters, and it just doesn't, like, come on. As far as I can tell, Pearl has fought many battles, so how in the world does she get blinded for such a long amount of time by ketchup? That just seemed completely ridiculous. And yeah, again, I know I said this in the last review, but I know that the show focuses on Steven. I know that at this point especially, it's sort of like Steven coming into his own and proving that he is worthy to be one of the crystal gems, even though he doesn't have control of his crystal yet, or of his gem. But it just, each time, well, not all the episodes, I don't think all of the episodes had this, but it just seems way too often that the strong characters are getting upstaged when they shouldn't be. Like logically they shouldn't be. And I'm obviously thinking way too much into a kid's show at this point, and personally, I'm sure that the gems are going to be able to, or basically that the writing for the gems is going to improve, that they will actually be a strong force within the episode alongside Steven, who is, of course, the focus of the show. It continues to bother me that they just constantly keep getting unstaged against odds that should seemingly be in their power to overcome. Especially in this case, Frybo, who splatted Pearl with ketchup. Actually, I think this may be the worst offense of all of them, which is why it's bothering me so much. It's just the fact that she was taken out of commission by ketchup. Just didn't like it. But alright, moving on from there. As for my quote of the episode, the fact that I didn't write it down means I'll probably be paraphrasing this one. But it was basically right at the end, as they're giving the Frybo costume its fiery funeral, whatever you want to call it. And Pearl makes the comment, weren't people already afraid of it before it turned into a monster? Just that line right there, it made me crack up. In an episode that made me crack up quite a bit, that made me pretty consistently laugh throughout, that was just a really standout line for me. There was one other as well. I think it was from Steven, having something to do with he knew when he bared his butt that Frybo would crack or something like that. But yeah, just for me, the Pearls line stood out a little bit more, for me personally. Now, as for my overall thoughts on this episode, it should be plainly clear that I really liked it. Besides the fact that Pearl got upstaged, which I don't think is going to be a continuous theme, or I hope is not going to be a continuous theme for the Crystal Gems throughout this show, I just really like this one overall. I feel like it's in my opinion, brought the show to a new level for me, which has only been getting better overall as I've been going along. So I don't know what to expect with the next episode, which for the next Discovering Steven universe, it's called Cat Fingers. And I saw a preview image, I think, and it had like Steven has little cats for fingers. I don't know what's going on there, but I guess I'll find out when I watch the episode. But yeah, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Discovering Steven Universe. Please do let me know your favorite parts about this episode, some parts that might have bothered you if you have any at all. Any music that might have stuck out to you, which nothing really did for me. They did have like the 8-bit little stings here or there, which I really liked, but overall nothing really stood out as far as a memorable music piece, I guess. But yeah, just let me know your thoughts on this episode. I'm really looking forward to them. And I hope that you're enjoying Steven Universe so far. I know that I am. So I will see you all next time for the next episode of Discovering Steven Universe for Cat Fingers. Until next time, everyone, I'm PapaKenn. Alonzi!